Welcome back, ICA. I know so far we've gone through quite a bit. We've gone through a lot of our foundational things, supply and demand. We've talked about the Discord. We've talked about the way that the Discord flow works, how we get our information about big money, about the purchases that are being made, et cetera, et cetera. Now, what we want to go into next is we're going to be talking a little bit about the market dynamics. Now that we understand how, money is flowing in and out of certain stocks, how these things, work on the price side, what we want to understand is how news, how fear and greed, how these things influence the market as a whole. And the first thing we want to introduce to you here is the concept of what a catalyst is. I don't know if you remember from your chemistry days or, from high school, etc., that a catalyst is something that allows a little less energy to acquire the same result. Okay, so usually it takes you 2 cups of coffee to go through your day, but for some reason, 1 is enough to have that same reaction. That's kind of the idea, is less effort for the same result. Okay, but also it's a way in terms of in terms of that chemistry example, in terms of the market, catalysts create large movements. What I like you to think about in terms of a product, for example, is what if there's new news about a new product that's coming out, so everybody flocks to the market to go purchase it because they want it. All right, same idea with the stock. Oftentimes the news, the media creates these narratives that allow supply and demand to play out within the markets. People read these things about how something's supposed to be the next new big thing, the next important cornerstone of our infrastructure or of our economy, and people pile in. And as a result, you can always notice with these catalyst events and with large volume events, there's ultimately more and more people that run to the market. We'll definitely go through a couple examples and show you that. For a little bit later too, catalysts often actually trigger an impulse wave. Later when we go into Elliott waves, that'll be something for you to consider, is that catalysts sometimes create the first push of a sort. And oftentimes it can be just news, but also earnings. When a company has certain expected earnings and revenue, and they end up doing well or much, much better than expected or worse than expected, can bring a lot of people to the market and create movements. Now, I want to be clear though, there are times where you're going to see positive news and things are going to go down. And then sometimes you're going to see negative news and things are going to go up. So realize though that catalysts, ultimately, you still need to consider what the price action is saying. Oftentimes that there are going to be little fake outs. For example, this situation I'll point out later where this news came out and Peloton popped pretty crazily, but then right after the news died down, it sold completely off and ended up lower than before because the news didn't turn out. There's a common saying too, buy the rumor, sell the news. Okay, let me write that out. Okay, and what that is it was a buy the rumor situation. There's a rumor about how Amazon could buy Peloton, but then there was actually never any real news. They never did purchase it. It was just a rumor, and that rumor was enough to create enough fervor and enough, I like to think of a stampede to the market to purchase that specific stock. Now, one quick question that people will give me is, well, how do I know what news to look at, etc.? And that's where I want to show you guys, one of my favorite websites to check on in terms of it is this called FinViz, Financial Visualizations. All right, and finviz.com, it's a free website. You go on here And what you can look for is looking for, they've got certain things where they're going to plot out charts for you. Okay, they'll give you trend lines and how the computer is going to plot certain things out. These are always nice to take a look at. But ultimately, what I want to show you here is that catalysts, let's say, for example, we want to look at what Tesla is showing us today. Okay, Tesla, they'll give you your chart up here, but as you go a little further down here, you'll see there's all these things about today's March 20th. And this is all the news that's come out today about the stock Tesla. Okay, so it's a pretty nice way to look in here. What's going on with NVIDIA. Well, you can go in here, search for it. Oop, NVIDIA. It shows you how, right, it's broken out of that trend. It's high up above certain moving averages. And down here, what you'll notice is that's all the information about NVIDIA right now in terms of the news and publishers. Okay, what else you also have is you have a Twitter feed that's going to show you anybody that tags NVIDIA. And what you also have up here is you have ways to look at additional information of the stock. All right, okay. What we'll get into very soon and in the next video is about how certain catalysts can trigger events in terms of squeezes. Some of you may remember most recently there's the GameStop and AMC squeeze where price shot up pretty quickly due to certain catalysts and also earning events as well. Now, here's where I want to point out. So these green markers down here show that earnings was positive, but take a look at what actually happened right after positive earnings. It actually shot down before it went up. Same with the bad earnings. There's in here a quick pop up before it went back down. So it's not always going to correlate directly with exactly the reaction. But keep that in mind, that the main thing that we want to understand about catalysts is that you end up with people that come to the market in volume, right? And what that's important to understand is that, you can't move price in a direction without people coming to the market. If these people didn't show up, it would come straight back down. And this actually has come back down quite a bit from this. Let's go into our charts. What I want to point out in TradingView is there's also this little, there we go, this little lightning bolt down here, which is headlines that are coming out for that specific ticker. Okay, in here they also have you can go check out what people are talking in their public chats. But here, if you just click on more news, under each of yours, you can look at headlines, okay? Headlines of what's going on with each of these tickers. So you don't have to pull up FinViz, you can pull up this as well. And this will have news that's being pulled from the internet as well, okay? All right, that's what I wanted to show you guys today with the catalysts and with the news. Keep in mind, there is the idea that the news is being presented as noise. It is more important to consider supply and demand and resistance levels, but it doesn't hurt to see and know what's going on with the markets in terms of the macroeconomics as well. All right. With that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video, and we'll continue talking about additional catalysts and additional mechanics of the market. All right. See you then.